On the night of the living sky, the universe inhaled, awakening an ancient magical force known as the breath. Inside three children, something older than their years began to stir. The forest threaded through his bones, rivers moved through a girl's veins, mountains rose in another's chest, while the dragon Zoran watched. But the universe is a closed system. As the world drew its first conscious inhale, the pressure at the farthest edges of the heavens plummeted, creating a massive vacuum. This wasn't an empty space, but a hungry one. Out of that vacuum stepped the shadow that does not breathe. Not a monster or a creature, but a physical absence of existence itself. A predator can be fought, but a void is different. It doesn't want to destroy the world. It wants to replace the harmony of life with absolute, total silence. The shadow's first form was a static fracture in the forest floor. It didn't strike or roar. It simply sat there, draining the sound and color from every root and leaf it touched. The children didn't use weapons. Instead, they joined hands and wove their elemental rhythms into a single, vibrating harmony. They reminded the forest how to live, and the fracture sealed itself shut. The void immediately adapted. It evolved into its second form, a shifting mirror silhouette that looked exactly like the children, using their own internal doubts to mimic their breath and turn it against them. To defeat the mirror, they had to do the opposite of before. They broke their unity and asserted their individual identities, the forest, the river, and the mountain, shattering the reflection through the strength of their differences. The void doesn't just react, it learns. Every move the children make becomes the blueprint for the shadow's next wall, turning the conflict into a constant evolutionary arms race. To find the source of the breath, the children descended into the deep earth, reaching the loom of breath, a chamber where time itself is woven from threads of light. Inside the loom, the shadow's third form appeared as a jagged tear, consuming possibilities before they could even begin. The tear then morphed into a hunter. This fourth form was designed for one purpose: to track down the unborn guardian, the future of the children's lineage, and erase them before they could take their first breath. Saving the timeline required a paradox. The children had to reach forward through time, sharing their current power with a child who does not yet exist, to anchor them to reality. By weaving their pulse through time itself, they bound the timeline into a single cord. The breath isn't just a force of nature, it is the physical thread holding the past, present, and future together. From the depths, the battle shifted to the heavens. The children ascended to the sky breach, the high-altitude bridge where the Earth's exhale meets the air of the upper atmosphere. The shadow met them there in its fifth form, a massive, smothering veil. It spread across the sky like a shroud, intending to choke out the stars and leave the world in total darkness. When the veil was pierced, it collapsed into the silent star. This sixth form was an impossibly heavy void, dropping directly toward the planet to crush the very atmosphere beneath it. The Guardians had to pour every ounce of their elemental strength into a single upward column of light, struggling against the massive weight of the void until the falling star finally shattered. But every time the shadow is broken, it simply reforms into something more absolute. Pushing it back is only a temporary fix. It always returns larger than the form before it. The explosion of the silent star left the sky wounded. Jagged fractures spread across the heavens, and from those tears, the final form began to leak into our world. The silent storm descended as a crushing stillness, lacking wind, rain, or sound, designed to smother the entire globe. Every tactic that had worked before failed. The children couldn't outmuscle or push away a storm that didn't have a physical weight. It was simply the end of movement itself. They were forced to use the breath-bound path, a strategy that went against every survival instinct they had left. Instead of fighting the storm, they opened themselves to it. They invited the core of the silence into their own chests, using their internal harmony to shatter it from the inside out. The void cannot be outmuscled. It is only defeated when it is filled with a resonance more vibrant than its own silence. The storm imploded, the fractures in the sky sealed, the natural winds moved again, and a real dawn broke over the sky breach for the first time in days. The children who once stood trembling at the threshold of the forest have now faced 7 different versions of the end, and they are still standing. Silence is nothing more than the absence of life. In a universe that can sometimes feel cold and empty, the most powerful thing you can do is make the stubborn choice to keep breathing. The world has taken its first full breath, and the sky is finally clear. But at the edge of the horizon, a new shadow is already beginning to move. See you in Book 8.